right, today we are reading Radical Candor by Kim Scott in our High Impact Reading Challenge, where we encourage you to be yourself, run wild, take leaps, and read like a beast. As I said, we're reading Radical Candor. Our agenda is our quick intros, which actually we skip for today because it's a small group. We do round robin, just let anybody talk about what they felt about the books, opening it up to comments, and then we just talk about what book is next. Our ground rules are to watch your P's and Q's. Everyone is entitled to their own opinions and to have fun. Here's some guiding questions to help you figure out what to talk about. The overall helpfulness of the book. Is it relevant to your audience? Your ability to put this book and its content into action? How does it compare maybe to similar books that you've read? What's your favorite quote or point? What did you like least about it? And, generally, do you give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down? And you don't have to cover all of these. It's helpful to the group if you can just kind of speak shortly, and then we can always come back to you if we have time at the end. So to ensure that everyone has a chance to talk, that's me being radically candid this time to make sure that we all get a chance to chime in. And our book club is free to join, but we do welcome people to join as supporters or sponsors to help us run the book club. Some of our sponsors that we have currently are Elisa Sears with Brass Rings, Barb Stone with Build Your Path, Robin McKenney, Jody Hatch, and Jerry Nolan with nolanandmaloney.com. And here are our numbers. We like to keep it transparent, so we're still trying to reach having enough people in our group to fund a first-time publishers fund and literacy foundation donations. We're getting closer, but we need some more members. So if you know anybody else who likes to read these type of professional books, please encourage them to join. And then our next book is going to be The Big Leap, Conquer Your Hidden Fear and Take Life to the Next Level by Gay Hendricks. And that will be happening on the last Thursday of the month, as usual, October 28th at noon. So hope to see you there. Now on to the discussion. One of the things that I took away from this book was that I haven't asked for any feedback. When you and I and Jody got together recently, and Jen, we were talking about how our feelings about the book club and all of that. And I haven't given everybody else the opportunity to provide any feedback. So it's one of the things I'm going to do is make a survey and see, we haven't even asked if this is still a good time, so that will be coming out of having read this book. For me, that's probably the number one thing.
Yeah, I think we did talk as kind of a side group and talking about when the group was a little bit smaller, what we got out of it was like giving Kim enough time to really say, this is how I either used it already, I got so excited about it, or this is how, like, in my mind, how I would actually implement some of this, instead of giving, like, I think we got big, so then we started to do like the thumbs up, thumbs down, and it was kind of like I kept doing like an overview of the book instead of like giving people some permission to pick one topic and say, this is how I'm really going to try to be a leader or have a higher impact on people. This is one piece that really resonated with me that I'm going to practice at home or at work. I think Kim's shaking her head. Yes.
Yeah,
she's probably been craving that a little bit too.
Well, I always love anything that you can share with other people to share knowledge to help. That's the whole thing to me about reading any of these books or watching anything I see on TV. How does it translate to something that I can spread the knowledge to other people? And so it's something that's tangible to me. And that's what I love about this group, is that when we have those tangible moments, and then I can take them and share them with other people.
Yep. So Lisa, I have a couple of guesses about what you're pulling out for your groups to use. So I can't wait to hear what you're doing.
Well, do we want to just open up the discussion then and maybe start with Jerry since she's got to stop along the way?
Yeah, let's do that.
Pressure on the girl that didn't get the physical book until about a week and a half ago, but have been listening to Audible, but it's been so chunked up. But I still absolutely loved what I got. It wasn't like I wasn't ever like listening or reading and thinking, blah, blah. Sometimes books just do that. This one didn't. And I guess, looking at the first for the framework of, you know, the entire thing with, you know, ruinous empathy and manipulative insincerity and obnoxious aggression being the classic. Stop laughing, Lisa. Just stop now. It's not even right. It's not fair that you know my insides right now. So I am the like super classic, you know, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. And, you know, be kind to people, which obviously you can still be kind. But I think because of that, I live in all these other three areas because I'm kind until it bubbles over. And then my way of coping is to be obnoxiously aggressive, manipulatively insincere. That's actually more my mom, but if this is recorded and she ever sees this, I'm dead. And ruinous empathy. Oh yeah, been there too. So I found it very interesting, especially like, so most of what I took in, probably 80% was through Audible so far. And then, you know, reading was maybe 20%. And I haven't finished every single bit, but, you know, a good chunk of the book. And I think one of the things that I found most interesting was when she first started mentioning, you know, her time in Silicon Valley and Apple and Google and Twitter. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is exactly like my life. You know, they're absolutely, those are my problems, you know. But in honesty, it was very realistic from that level to literally not like I'm low level, but I have a team of 3, you know, right now. And we certainly interact with, you know, hundreds, if not thousands of, you know, between clients and staff and, you know, external partners and stuff, but, you know, super intimately, it's very small. So one of my favorite parts was, and I'm trying to think of the exact perspective, but the part that I liked was that it was very applicable. It was very logical, literal, but it was also real. Like the part where she said it's okay to be a hugger, that was like, yes, you know, because in today's world, it seems that so much goes so far the other extreme that it's, you know, not good to display true feelings, whether they're good or bad. It was, you know, you can cry, don't cry too much. You can hug, you don't hug inappropriately, you know. And so some of those things just were, I found very interesting. And a lot of it was things that, yeah, have you read it or do you know it? But just kind of hearing it in a different perspective, in a different application. So I want to work with it and go deeper in it. And I know that it is super, a lot of very, very helpful stuff in here for me from a personal perspective and a professional perspective, because like the one story about never saying the word guys again. Oh, I probably won't do that, but I will think about it. The one thing that I really loved is the idea of soliciting and being prepared to and accepting true critique yourself, because that's something Eric's here. That's something I've never done, not because I'm afraid of it, but I guess I would definitely be in the camp where, you know, what could I do better? Oh, you're doing great. Okay, thanks. You know, it just never occurred to me. So I really, really like that, because I truly would, you know, like to have the feedback. Hi, Eric. Just missed my huge.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Good, good. Sorry I'm running late.
No worries. I got to leave early, so we're all good. So anyway, that was, really the probably the best parts for me, and knowing that I really didn't take it in a comprehensive, flowing way. I was kind of chunking in and out of it, but it was extremely beneficial, and I think I would absolutely work more with it and liked it. So I know we're not doing thumbs up, thumbs down, but it was good for me, and I would work more with it.
Jerry, your thoughts spring to mind a conversation we recently had about, like, you said, like, you are one of the nicest people I know. And you just said, like, I do this and I do that. Like, I'm in all those boxes, right? And I really want to get into that realm of radical candor. But we had a conversation. It's almost like it's what you use the word like bubble over. It's always like when that behavior comes out. And I mean, I think like we talked about, how do we have those conversations way before we don't have them till it's too late. And that's
Right.
our, like, that we have to own that.
Absolutely.
And so how do we inch that back to really early on having some of those conversations so we don't behave that way?
I think a lot of it is going to be just awareness, which is what the reading here will do. It's going to, make you aware of, things that you start to feel, go back to your gut. You feel a little bit is the time to, think about where I am in the conversation, as opposed to waiting till you're in the, obnoxiously aggressive state. So yes. My friend, my coach, we need to work on that stuff. So that's about it.
Welcome, Eric.
I was
Haven't
so
seen you in a
hoping you'd
while.
show
You guys
up.
want me to go?
Sure.
I'm like diving right in here and then going head first. I love this. Yeah, great to see everybody. Sorry I've missed the past few. I had a little bit of a change in my overall business structure recently, and carving out time for this has been a huge challenge, but I've gotten things straightened out quite a bit, so I'm back.
Awesome.
And I love it that I'm starting off with this book. I'm almost through it for the second time over this past month. I really enjoyed it. And it's weird because now I'm reading it for the second time. And it's funny because all these aha things, I was like, wow, that's a really great idea, or these are really great ways to approach situations. It's almost like remedial. It's almost like, duh, like why isn't this just a thing anyways? And it's funny, I'm seeing that now more than I did on the first time around. But I really enjoyed the book and everything that it really had to say, or at least the first part of the book. The second part of the book was a little bit drier, more practical application. I think it's a little challenging for me to wrap my head around it in the capacity that they work, because at my job in particular, I don't have a massive team of people that are underneath me. I don't really need to do annual reviews of people's work, I think, but I do like the ideas that I did get from it, like your weekly touch bases and to be able to just understand what people are doing on a daily basis. I think that's important, and that is something that I do practice regularly. But I did like that idea. I can't say there's anything in very particular that I loved about it, and I highlighted a ton of the book, actually probably an obscene amount of the book I highlighted. But one thing I did take away from this, and this is the one piece that I really liked. This is an excerpt from the book, and I thought it was kind of powerful. In this book, a primer on decision making. So I guess it's not even technically from this book. It's from another book that they reference in this. In this book, a primer on decision making, James March explains why it's a bad thing when the most senior people in a hierarchy are always the deciders. What he calls garbage can decision making occurs when the people who happen to be around the table are the deciders rather than the people with the best information. Unfortunately, most cultures tend to favor either the most senior people or the people with the kinds of personalities that insist on sitting around the table. The bad decisions that result are among the biggest drivers of organizational mediocrity and employee dissatisfaction. I really liked that, and I think that all of us probably could attest to situations that we're in, or people that we're engaged with, or people that we work under, that kind of fall into that category, you know, and I would say in any of my roles, whether it was here at CAFL or other places that I've worked, I've definitely been in those situations and have seen that. And I thought it was relatively enlightening to see that I wasn't necessarily wrong. You know, I mean, that to see that just because you've been in a situation for much longer than where I have, or just due to your age, you should be above me in your role. Bad leadership is just bad leadership, right? And so I thought that was kind of enlightening for me.
Sounds like Turn the Ship Around, one of my favorite books from this group. Because that's the whole premise of that book, is that the people closest to the problem are the ones that need to make the decisions.
Oh, okay. I'll take a look at that. Turn your ship around.
I think it's Turn the Ship Around. It's from a Navy submarine captain.
Okay. Yeah, definitely.
Actually, Eric, I'm coming in town in October. You want a hard copy? I think I've got it here.
Sure. Yeah, I'd love it. Oh, actually, I do have one thing to add. So it's funny. So I got about halfway through this book, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, Radical Candor. You know, I love this concept, and I'm trying to implement it in my own little way here and there. So I work with this one advisor, and I've always told all my advisors right from the very beginning of all of our relationships that if you have a problem and there's something that you're concerned about for whatever purpose, instead of just firing me, would you please bring it to my attention? Let's see what we can do to work on it. I'm happy to adjust my attitude or the way I go about things, or whatever it is that you're not a big fan of. I want you to communicate that to me, because communication, that's a true partnership. And most of them agree with that. I would say all of them probably do agree to it, but not a lot of them will actually exercise that, except for my one advisor. So, you know, I had made a couple they're very small mistakes, but, you know, to the client, in the client's eyes, I'm sure they saw those as major mistakes. You know, I'd done an illustration kind of improperly. I was working directly with her clients, and I had just accidentally illustrated a couple things wrong. Same outcome, just some of the features in there that they were seeing weren't correct. And she wrote me an email and basically threw that at me, and just was very, very upfront, and was like, hey, you know, you are speaking with my client and you're working with my client. I need you in the game. And if you're not going to be in the game, I'll find somebody else to do this. So going forward, if you're going to continue to engage with my clients, I expect this, and this. And I thought it was awesome. Like, not only that she communicated that to me and didn't just fire me on the spot, which technically could have, you know, she could have justified that, but that she was just she used her radical candor with me. And I thought it was really cool that not only that I recognized that she had brought that to my attention, but that I looked at that as a growing opportunity, right? That, hey, here's a lesson learned, that even though they're not your clients and you think that the small things don't really matter, other people do view it as a big problem, and just to be more aware of those things. So I thought that was really cool. And it was just kind of ironic that it happened to be as I was getting into the meat and potatoes of the book itself.
That was not ironic. That was the universe.
That is the universe.
I have a question, Eric. Just curiosity. I had actually someone speak to me throughout the past couple of weeks with something that was similar, and I'm just curious. Did you immediately feel like that was awesome, or was there even like a twinge of like, ouch, that sucks? I'm just curious.
Yeah, it was definitely a gut punch.
Okay.
It took me a minute to really think about it. It wasn't something that I was like, oh, I finally got one. No, it wasn't like that. You know, but I don't think it was too far from it though, you know, because I think I recognized how just upfront she was. And even outside of this book, I think I would have appreciated
Yes.
her being honest with me and just really giving me some true direction on that. It was well deserved, and I even replied back to her, and I told her I really appreciated her feedback, and that I actually well, I forget what my terminology was for it. I said I looked up to that type of reaction and the way that she handled that situation. So yes, I definitely hurt at first, but I straightened my stuff out, and the case went well. I love that communication between people. You know, I strive for it on a daily basis, both in my work life and personal life. You know, I always am encouraging people to tell me whatever it is that they're feeling. I tend to maybe ask people how they're feeling a little bit too often, almost to a fault. But you know, I do experience some people who do give me great feedback on things. I can better understand people where they're at, and usually, I mean, I guess it wards off any potential future problems. You know, I mean, people hold that animosity forever and ever and ever, and eventually it's going to come out. You know, I'd rather get the little things at a time than, you know, a big mountain of problems a year from now.
Well, and I think that that's a problem that I see, I hate to say quite frequently, but it does happen where the feedback is not given to the employee, and then it just snowballs, and you have to let the employee go, and they're shocked because what did I do wrong? You never told me that I did something wrong. Because you may have a supervisor, Jerry, just like you said, you know, you were taught if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. So they're not saying anything at all. And then the employee has to be let go, and they don't understand why.
Yeah, I think too, like Eric, I think the gut punch never goes away, but our maturity as leaders help us listen to the feedback. And when I met you a couple of years ago, you were like, I love to learn, where I want to put my head is in more in leadership. I'm not truly in a leadership role, but I want to be a leader. And I think that's like, I've seen you just blossom in that intention just by being able to take some of that feedback that, you know, I think we're all, I mean, I look back in my 30s and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was, wow! Like, it's good to see other people younger than me take it really seriously, and really just it just shows the maturity that you're building in your leadership skills.
Thanks, Lisa. Appreciate that.
Do you Laura, I feel like you're supposed to be leading, but then I just want to like jump in and be like, bah!
I'm waiting for you to jump in.
Okay. So I think piggybacking off Eric a little will be fun. So the feedback part, I had a mentor that told me, like, feedback is just somebody's opinion. I really want you to sit and take it in, go away with it. And you don't have to do what that person says. I think being a people pleaser and like the core of me, I was always like, I get feedback, I jump to do whatever that feedback was. So I think I've worked really hard at that. What I'm realizing now is that with people that I look up to or who I feel are above me that give me feedback, I am defensive in the moment. And I think that's just natural. So I thought I had like, oh, I'm going to just write and take in the feedback and I'm great at this. But what I realized in past conversations and while reading this book is I've asked for feedback from some people. And as soon as I literally had to like hold my hands like this to not respond, even though I knew I could have given a response that would have changed their perception of the situation. I had more details to give, and that would like almost change their mind instantly. I really just practice sitting there. And I think it's just hard because we all are trying to do such a good job. And oh, it was a struggle. But then what I did was go back to the...
Isn't Marshall Goldsmith the one who says the response to feedback is just thank you?
Yeah. Just thank you. Eric, are you writing notes there?
Yeah. Sorry. So people are flagging me down from the window.
Oh. So the other piece that I think really resonated me from this is I think about, I do work with CAFL, I do work with Eric, I work with many different clients, and I felt like I went into that particular engagement as a coach and as a consultant. So I came in as an outsider, and I really saw some like foundational things we needed to change and get more framework and figure out how our team dynamic was. And that was a lot of me asking and doing a lot of one-on-one work. And then we've recently transitioned into more of some group work, which has been great because they hear way less from me and they're like working together. I see this like great thing that's happened that's been so much fun for me to watch. But what I realized when reading this book is I think some of like the decision making, like Eric says, like I always think of that decision making on our leadership meeting. The things that we talk about there are stuff that I'm bringing up, but I'm kind of almost making a decision myself as a leader of leading this team at CAFL. So I get information, but then I'm like the last word still, because I haven't transitioned into, like, I advocate for them. I think Eric knows, like, I love them. I see things through their eyes. I advocate for them, but I'm missing the piece of that piece where they talked about adapting a culture of listening. So, I mean, I grabbed hold of that tightly. I really want to do work at CAFL so that I become, they were talking about leaders in this middle part where there is still like, we still have to get the answer for the decision making, but how do I allow my team to make tweaks and bring feedback and let them do some of that work on their own? I'm in like every meeting and I don't like, so I of course had to put it into presentation form so I can actually execute it. Laura, don't make too much fun of me, but like having an idea session, brainstorming and clarification. So me saying, don't bring me a problem, bring me solutions actually reduces the innovation. Like that part in the book, I was like, oh my gosh, like one of our core values is innovation. And like we've got all the right pieces there, but we're not like executing that well. So I'm going to practice with my team to empower them to do like clarify thinking and ideas, goal to identify good ideas, even if they're obvious at first. Like they don't need me to do this part of it, and then nurture and clarify the ideas. If I'm closed-minded or unclear on the ideas, what details do they need to convey? So really helping them kind of build this skill set so that when I go into leadership meetings, I'm more prepared and it's actually coming from grassroots. Not, I do think I have a layer of expertise. I've worked with a ton of financial advisors. I've worked in sales. I do coaching, but like, how do I push all that out the window so the actual creative ideas that are tweaks to our system can actually like blossom and grow organically from the people actually doing the work? So I loved that the debate meetings versus decision making, like let's really dive into some of this. And then for me, myself, like I do quarterly meetings and I'm shifting them into them reporting out on some of the great stuff that they've done. But I need to ask the question, what would you have all planned for next quarter? Instead of me saying, I'm driving this team in this direction. Like if it were up to you, what would you, extreme ownership, what would you prioritize and execute, right? And I just need to let them, I think I came in and wanted to like take this team to this place. They're at this place, and the rest of it really has to come from where we go in the future is how do I create a culture where I'm listening to the people and where they want to go. So I hope that wasn't too, I know I get long-winded, but I get really excited about like, here's a framework from this book that I can pull out and show to a team and say, what do you guys think? Will this fit for you? How would we design these? You know, there's got to be some structure to it, but how can you all feel like I don't choose our next priority or our next initiative? You all can choose that. So
I let my team make the agenda for the meetings. I have the core stuff at the top, like any announcements I need to do from HR or things that I've seen on the horizon. But then the bottom of the agenda, they get to put on there what they want to discuss, ideas, efficiencies, projects that they're having issues with. Yeah, so I think it empowers them to be more of a player, and it helps facilitate what I call our brainstorming sessions.
yeah, I'm really excited to do that with the team at CAFL because we just, the people on our team are amazing. You too, Eric.
Yeah, we do have a pretty awesome team, without a doubt. Some really great minds, hard workers.
I guess I would like get feedback in the moment. Eric, do you think like pulling that out and seeing that as a next step might be a good place for us to where we take our team?
This book? Yeah, I mean, corporately, we probably should. You know, I think there's a lot to learn from the ground floor up with this book. I mean, case managers here could use that with their interactions with some of their broker managers. Broker managers could use that for some of the leadership team. You know, I mean, we all could engage at a much higher level than what we do. I mean, I think that's probably part of any corporate culture, is that you don't have 100% of communication, right? We don't have a Steve Jobs or a Google atmosphere around here where, you know, you can challenge everybody and anything at any time in any way that you want to. But I think that you can get there, you know, small steps. But I think it would be a great book. I think a lot of people would enjoy this read personally.
Yeah, well, we went through Trusted Advisor this year with the capital organization, so I've got to pick. I know we're doing 4 agreements, but I keep going between Extreme Ownership and this book right now. That's where I'm.
I think they're both. I think they kind of tie in hand. I mean, a lot of the books actually throughout this year they tie in very well with each other, honestly.
Yeah, building.
Actually,
I did.
Can I ask a really quick question about the 2 books that you just mentioned, Lisa? I know that you've talked about them quite a bit. I've never actually read them. Is it likely that the group will ever do them again? I think you guys have already done Trusted Advisor and 4 agreements at some point.
Well, that might be one of, maybe we put that on the survey.
Okay, I mean, because otherwise I'll do it on my own, which is no big deal, but it was curious. Okay, thanks.
4 agreements was good, but those little cards are better, in my opinion. You buy them on Amazon, they're only like $11, and it's like the Cliff Notes version of the book, but in like a little card, and you could like put it on your mirror or, you know, on your computer screen. They're fantastic. That's how I learned about the book, from the cards. I've gotten the cards as a gift many years ago, and then when the book came up from the book club, I thought, oh my gosh, my cards are a book. And it was really supposed to be the other way around. You read the book first and then you get the cards.
I love that. I didn't know that they did that.
Maybe we can share the cards on
Yep.
in our Facebook group. I'm just going to look at them really quick to make sure there's only one version. I just want to make sure I get the version Kim gets.
It
What?
looks like the cover.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. 48 card deck.
Yes, they are. They are fantastic.
I like
So-
that you have them right there on hand.
I love it. I give them out for Christmas presents. Like, here's one. It says, speak openly and honestly. And then on the back, it's got the text. I think it's from the book. I haven't looked specifically word for word, but they're fantastic.
Well, it was a small book, so it's probably the entire book in those cards.
Well, I follow them on Instagram and I like that. I mean, it's not the most polished, but I don't care. It's great. Brings them up. I think about it. So Jerry, yeah, maybe this is a book as we're nominating into the new year.
So, okay, but the cards in the meantime look like $16.
I think we all got that.
Amazon.
I did.
Okay.
As a side note, I was interviewing somebody via Zoom this week, and she said, I have to interrupt you. Like, I see that you have the 4 agreements on behind you, which makes me just want to work with your organization more. And I was like, you mentioned it, makes me want to add you to our team. Like, and then we went back and forth and said, oh, you got to read this book and this one. She gave me the big leap. She said, read that one next. So it's always so interesting when we connect with people. It's fun to see connect with the ones that are reading stuff that like we're reading.
A book club.
Yep. Well, that's what I said to her. Well, you can join this high impact reading challenge.
She's like, I'll wait and see if I get hired first.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was a great book. Everything was, stuff you could use. And like I said, it made me think about, I haven't really asked for specifically feedback for this group. And we had some conversations about, the direction of it and how some people thought the conversations were going. So that was good. I also have, students who work for me, I let them kind of have their leeway because they're students. So for me, their priority is not my work, it's their homework. So a lot of times they, some are better than others at communicating and saying like, oh, I'll work on this later, or I have a, something this week that I can't get to it. But others, I'm like, hey, are you working on this? And then I'm end up spending time that I shouldn't spend checking to see if they've done anything. So there was one person who, instead of letting it go, I was like, I need to tell this person how much I love them, that I really, I know that you have school first, but you've got to let me know what's happening. It only take you 30 seconds. It doesn't mean you have to do the work. I just want you to tell me that you're there and that you're going to do it, or because if it has a deadline, I need to do it. And you have to let me know, otherwise this relationship doesn't hold water, because I need someone in here who can communicate what they're doing. So anyway, I ended up having that conversation as a direct response from the book, because I was like, I can't just let this go. And like Kim mentioned, just let it get to be where it's a problem. And then you also have, the one thing that I think too is that people see other people making those mistakes, and then other people take them on. So when things don't necessarily fester just with you and between that person on that issue, they snowball into other people's issues, and they snowball into, well, if I can get away with that thing, then I can get away with another thing. And then so they become more prolific as well. So I was like, I have to do a better job but to do that, you've got to set the expectations up front. So even when I'm hiring people, I need to tell them, so today after this meeting, I have 2 more students starting on a different project, and I need to say up front, I'm giving you your leeway, you can do, but you have to communicate with me. Like, that is number one. You got to let me know if you're working on things. I'm not trying to crack the whip. If I message you, you don't have to answer me in 10 minutes, but I need to hear back in 24 hours. Just a yes, no, I get to it later, something. And just really harp on the expectations. So then when they get the feedback, they're not surprised either. I think that's extremely tied to it. But what I really loved about her writing was just, I think to have radical candor, you have to be radically candid with yourself. And she was so radically candid with all of the mistakes that she'd made. Like, some of them were laughable. Like, really? You did, like, she just laid it out. Oh, I messed up this, I messed up that, I messed up that. And like Eric, in your example, you get the punch in the gut, but then you have to go, yeah, I did that, you have to own it. So we have to be radically candid in order to make the whole radical candor thing work.
Don't you feel like the radical candor, though, is like the compass for anything other than radically candid? Doesn't feel good for us or for someone else, or for both, right? So it's always this compass of, if we don't practice this, somebody will either be hurt in some way, shape, or form, emotionally, job. If we don't hit that mark, any other mark, it has consequence.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Chad, welcome. You made it. So Chad and I met a while back. We were talking about the Role Model Way, and he's joined the book club, and this is the first time you've made it. Were you able to read the book?
I read about half of it. Well, I listened to about half of it. It's 11 hours of listening, which a plane ride tomorrow, so I'm going to finish it. But it's it's very interesting to me. It's a different mindset than I'm used to. I'm a very sarcastic person, so I thought, wow, this makes kind of sense. I can say anything I want, but as you listen, you realize it's not, you can say anything you want. You have to be very constructive about how and what you say. So that's, basically what I've gotten so far out of the book. So.
Oh, Chad, we have a book for you.
Oh yeah.
What got you here won't get you there. broke me of some sarcastic habits myself. I was like, oh no, I do that totally.
Yeah. Well, I think the book that helped me the most was Untitled Yourself. if you haven't read that, that was one that really helped me to realize that, stop thinking so much and, just spend the time to present your opinions and your ideas, right?
Who's the author of that? Do you remember?
He's Scottish. I can look it up real quick. I have it in my Audible file.
Gary John Bishop?
I think so, yeah.
Well, you can see we're a bunch of readers because as soon as you said it, we all went to like.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of that one. What is it?
Yeah, because I've been in a couple different book clubs over the years, and the last one I was in was all about lean manufacturing. So it was with my mentor from my past job, and we were spending a lot of time doing a lot of lean books, and then I suggested we go off track, and we did that book, and it's a good book to help you to refocus, and stop thinking so much about everything else and focusing. And I think, this book kind of says the same thing in a different way. You reboot, and you can say what you want to say, but as my wife has always told me, it's not what you say, but how you say it, right? It's relieved a lot of arguments over the years, right? So the same type of thing.
Kim, I know you didn't get very far through it. Did you have any other comments or thoughts?
I only got about to page 50. It was a very busy month. I loved what was said earlier, that the author had so many failures. She presented them to everyone so that they could learn from her failures. So it just reminded me of this quote or something I had seen, that the hardship you face now will be someone's survival guidebook later. So when you go through those trials and tribulations, you just think, okay, I'm going to learn from this, and then I'm going to, share this with other people so they learn from it too. The one in the 50 pages, the one thing that I have already implemented is we do performance measures at my office, or performance evaluations, and we're actually going through them right now in September. So I have 11 to do on my team. It takes a long time, and I have new people who are doing the evaluations that haven't routinely done them before. And it's interesting to edit their evaluations for their staff, because they'll be very flowery and positive, but not genuine positive. It's like just something positive that they wanted to say to couple it with something that's negative. And I pull those people aside and say, what are you trying to accomplish? Does this person have a problem that needs to be corrected? If so, put it on the table, discuss the problem. You don't need to pepper in these false positives just to make it sound better. You're going to dilute the conversation. You just need to throw it on the table and get it out there and discuss what needs to be discussed. So I thought that was pretty powerful. In the 50 pages, I am going to read it more. Bye, Jerry.
I think this is good timing with your feedback reviews. There's a lot of good stuff in here for that. My boss used to always tell me, just keep doing what you're doing. And that was just so not helpful,
When I was at a financial services place, we'll just say that, I had a whole team that we were bought by another team, but we actually we stayed as a leadership team, which is not the norm, but we actually replaced their existing leadership team. But we had two clash of cultures, and the team that I started to take on had never done performance reviews, and they just like fought them tooth and nails. And I'm like, no, you are going to be so much happier with these performance reviews because I'm going to collaborate. I'm going to be really honest with you. We're going to make progress, and we're going to also look at what personal growth you want to have, and getting them through like a couple of years of it. Then they were like super prepared for them. They got to where they loved them because there was like none of that gray in there. And when I left, I still have one of the employees kept calling me and being like, it's time for my review. Can't help you anymore on that, but she missed it. Like it.
They are so important. It is fundamental. I think it is the number one thing as a supervisor. You owe it to your staff to have comprehensive performance evaluations, the good and the bad, but it all has to be genuine. It can't be, oh, your hair looks nice. No, you can't, couple those together. But I do, and the people that I train to do performance evaluations, I said, you take your time, you carve out time. This is the most important thing that you are doing, and it only comes around once a year.
Yeah, the
go
only
ahead, Chad.
constraint I have with performance reviews, I think that they can't be tied to monetary.
Perfect.
Right.
I
Because and for me, I do what I call Chad chats, and I learned that from my mentor. They used to stand conversations. I call them Chad chats, and I try and do them at least once a quarter, if not once a month, with my team. Just to sit down and see where we are, right, and make sure that we're all on the same page still. I don't do formal reviews anymore, because I'm a very small company, so I have the time to sit with each person and just say, are you comfortable? This is what I see. I'm very impressed with this. I'd really like you to work on this. And how does it fit your goals? Right. So that's what I try and do for my team. Because I just remember being in large corporations, and in October you got your performance review, right? And then a week later you got your monetary stipend for the year. And it always felt as if they tied together, and they shouldn't, right?
I love how in this book she talks about that, and I think every company should have the leeway to do the feedback however they want. If an annual review makes sense for you, that's great. Mm-hmm. But you do have to pepper it with the weekly and daily, like Kim, like you said, you can't let someone know, here's your annual review, by the way, you suck, you're fired. They have to have some sort of heads up and an ability to course correct before you get to that.
Right.
And I think that's where annual reviews in a lot of companies fall flat, is because that's the only feedback people get, and they're doing it wrong, and I think too that I always asked, what can I do for you to make your job easier? Like, it's not always about you're my responsibility. So this performance evaluation isn't just about you, it's about me. Because if you're not performing well, that's my fault. So what can I do to help you perform better? And then the last thing was, like, when we did the IDPs at EPC, I advocated for us to be able to talk about people's personal goals as well, and was adamantly 100% told, no, we only are talking about working here at this company or this agency. We're not talking about people's personal goals. And I love that she validated the fact that you should be talking about people's personal goals, and that should be directly tied in and integrated with their work goals. So that was a nice reading part for me.
Well, and nothing should be surprising at for us as annual performance evaluations. This should not be surprising to anything. That I love the idea of the Chad talks once a quarter. Everything should just be written down, once a year, to go over it again like a refresher, and where do we want to go from here. But yeah, I completely agree. No surprises at all.
Awesome. Well, we're getting close to the end of our time. Does anybody have anything else they want to add?
I'm just glad I was able to sneak in.
Oh, me too.
Glad we're glad to have you.
Hope to see you next time, which will be, I don't have the slides up, but it is we're reading The Big Leap.
Oh,
is that the book that was recommended to you, Lisa? Talking about the universe. The next book is The Big Leap, Conquer Your Hidden Fear and Take Life to the Next Level by Gay Hendricks. And we're discussing that October 28th.
Oh, I'm definitely calling that woman and whether I hire her or not, I'm calling her and being like, you're coming on this call with me. I literally recommended the next book.
That's a sign. So hope to see you all there, and happy reading.
Thanks.
Thank you.
It was good.
Good to see everybody.
You too.